It is 2:01 p.m. on Tuesday, June 24th, and I'd like to call to order this legislation and rules meeting. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderwoman Keys.
Here.
I'm sorry, Alderwoman Keys. I didn't see you.
I am here.
Thank you. Alderwoman Sonier.
Present.
Alderman Devoti.
Present.
Chair Velasquez.
Present.
President Green.
Present.
Alderman
Cone. We have 6 present. We have quorum.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Since we have no minutes, right, for today?
Correct.
All right, so since we have no minutes, there'll be no approval of minutes for the minutes that do not exist, so we'll move on to board bills for review. And I believe that we have Board Bill 5 for review. Board bills for review, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Board Bill number 5. Did you want me to read it or?
Yes, if you could just go ahead and read the summary, that would be great.
Board Bill number 5, introduced by Alderman Browning and Alderman Aldridge, an ordinance changing the filing fee of citywide elected offices, including mayor, comptroller, and president of the Board of Aldermen, to $250, and changing the filing fee for aldermen to $100.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, Alderman Browning, you are here to talk about your bill. Would you like me to do the figurative podium for you, and would you like to present your bill to us?
Yes, thank you.
Hand over the floor, virtual floor. However you do it over here.
We have a presentation prepared. It's very short. Madam Clerk, if you could put that up on screen.
One moment. Give me a moment. I'm letting you now, one moment. Can you all see that?
Yes, if you could just
Hold on.
Zoom in
Let
a
me
little
convert
bit,
it over.
maybe.
Yes, hold on. So I can't see it. Hold on.
Well, while the clerk figures this out, I'll just go ahead and start. I've just got a few remarks to start out with. And Madam Clerk, if you could keep an eye out for Ben Borgemeyer and Casey Milberg, I believe both
Yes.
said they'd be here to speak on this.
Sure.
So, good afternoon to the committee and Alderwoman Velasquez. Madam Clerk, if you could also move Alderman Aldridge over to the panelists, he would appreciate that.
Yes, I will.
So good afternoon to the committee. I really appreciate you taking the time this afternoon to hear Board Bill 5. Board Bill 5 is about democracy. As we see our country and state move from democratic principles towards authoritarianism, it is vital that we defend and uphold democracy at a local level. Democracy works best when people have choices. In the 2020 general election, voters in St. Louis chose to move to a nonpartisan approval voting system, the same system that all of us were currently elected under. And before this change, filing fees were intended to support political parties. In exchange, the candidate would gain access to that party's primary ballot and election tools. But ever since the 2021 local election, we have had nonpartisan primaries, and the filing fees have gone to the general revenue fund instead of the political parties. In 2023, just before the Board of Aldermen reduced down to 14 wards, the Board of Aldermen voted to double the salaries from around 37,000 to about 73,000 today. Perhaps unintentionally, the board doubled the filing fee too, because the ordinance stated that the filing fee is equal to 1% of the salary for the office. So today the filing fee is over $700 for alderperson, and that's more than any other office in the state or region. So that's what this bill is trying to address today. Your income shouldn't determine your eligibility for office. You shouldn't have to pay more to file just because you're running for office in the city of St. Louis. Last year, we had 7 alder seats up for re-election, and 3 of them went unchallenged. If we want our representatives to be truly representative, someone of low income should have the ability to run for office as the same as someone with more means to do so. With that, I'll just address what this bill does. So this changes the filing fee for alders down to $100 from 1% of the salary today, which is currently $700 plus. It changes the filing fee for citywide elected officials down to $250, down from, again, 1% of their salary, which is in excess of $800. It cleans up language regarding political parties just to reflect what we currently do. This isn't changing what we're doing right now. It's just simply cleaning up the language to reflect what we are doing. And it also clarifies that the money goes to the general fund, which again has been happening since 2021. The estimated cost, some of you might be wondering this, the estimated cost to general revenue will be about $10,000 to $15,000 every other year. So this is not money that the office depends on a year-to-year basis, but this is dependent on the number of challengers, obviously, and if it is a mayoral or comptroller year or a president of the board year. Next slide, please. So why is this important? This is important because right now, over a third of Americans cannot cover a $400 expense. And this is locking out people from the lower end of the income spectrum. The real test is collecting signatures. We believe that, that takes time and effort and support from your community. So right now the requirement is 2% of the votes cast for mayor at the last general municipal election in the ward in which the candidate intends to run for office. So it varies from ward to ward based on the voter turnout. If more voters turn out, that threshold becomes higher. But that signature requirement does exist, will still exist. And we believe that is the true test as to whether people should be able to run for office. Next slide. And if you're wondering what the other offices in the area charge to file for, in St. Louis, it's $100 flat fee for all the county positions. That's city treasurer, collector of revenue, license collector, recorder of deeds, circuit attorney, sheriff. All of those positions make more than alderperson. The only 2 that make less are committee members and candidates for the Board of Education, but that's still a $100 flat fee for all those positions. It is $500 for statewide office, or U.S. senator. So again, far less than we're currently paying to run for alder. $300 for U.S. representative or state senator, $150 for Missouri representative, $100 for St. Louis County Council, which is pretty much what our position is in the county. And then in Kansas City, Missouri, they actually don't have a filing fee at all. They just have the signature requirement. and across the border in Kansas City, Kansas, it's $20. So you can see what we're trying to move it to here is very much in the lane of where these fees sit right now. And unless we can say that the office of alderperson somehow has more responsibility than that of U.S. Senator, I don't think it's defensible to have alderman candidates pay more than that office. This really slots us in right at the same level as our colleagues in the county. And with that, I'll be happy to move to questions. But before that, I'd like to defer to Casey Milberg, Policy Director for the Mayor's Office. I know she has important places to be, and so I want to give her an opportunity to speak before we move on.
I don't know if I see Ms. Milberg on here unless I
I think
missed
she's in the attendees section. Might have to move her
the
over.
section. Madam Clerk, do you see Casey Milberg or Ben Borgmeyer in the attendees? And if so, can you move them over to panelists so they can testify? Do you want to go through, have these folks testify, Alderman Browning, before we move to questions?
I'd like to just have Casey if we can, because I know she's taking a step away from some other important things, and we really appreciate her being here representing the mayor's office today.
Hi, everyone. For the record, Casey Milberg, Policy Director in the Mayor's Office. First and foremost, I wanted to thank Alderman Browning for this legislation, the thoughtful approach to it, the thorough approach to it. The Mayor's Office is very supportive of this. We see this as a pretty simple fix with a pretty substantially broad, positive, and smart impact that is commensurate with other jurisdictions. As the Alderman mentioned, this is not money that is a sum of money that is dependent upon in the annual budget. It's based upon the number of folks who file every single year. So we would not be shortchanging anything that is completely and totally relied upon in a consistent way by our Board of Elections with this. And we also, in our office, really appreciate that, the preservation of that signature requirement, that ability to get out and about in the community, talk with your neighbors, talk with the people that you hope to represent, and really, really get out there and demonstrate, that commitment to the community that way. So, again, we think this is a pretty smart update. We think it is, again, fairly simple, but with big impact. And we do appreciate that it sort of brings the city in line with other jurisdictions, and that it does all this in a way that doesn't harm our Board of Elections, harm any other election-related processes within the city. So we just wanted to weigh in and express our support for it and thank Alderman Browning for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Casey. Really appreciate that, and happy to take any questions from the committee at this time. Like I said, I also know the Board of Election Commissioners is in support, although I don't see Mr. Borgmeyer in attendance yet. But I think that this is something that works well for the office that actually does this work, and something that they are in support of as well. So with that, if the committee has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Alderman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Browning. Is there a Sean Foss? Is that the same person?
No.
A different name? Okay.
So that would be if we have public comment, but I'm going to take questions from the committee before we move into public comment. We're looking for Mr. Borgmeyer, but I don't think he is on. Is that correct? Okay, so I will go to order.
Watching, but I don't know where he is.
Well, okay, well, I'm going to go through the questions in order of seniority. Alderman Cone?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Narayan?
No questions. Just a statement, I guess. I'm not really in favor of this right now. I think if we're gonna open this up, we need to really look at cleaning up the mess that Prop D caused. If candidates had to pay personally for these filing fees, I'd be lining up behind this. But filing fees you can pay with your campaign account if you would like, if a candidate would like. And if you can't raise $750, I don't think that you're probably a viable candidate. If we're talking about getting rid of barriers to entry, the signature requirement is a much stricter barrier to entry than funds that can be raised through a campaign account. I can't imagine in a high turnout ward being elderly or disabled and trying to get all the signatures that you need to get on the ballot in timely fashion. I appreciate the work that's gone into this, but I think that there's still quite a bit more to do if we're going to open this can of worms. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Ryan. Alderwoman Keys. All right, I'm going to go Alderwoman Senier.
No questions.
All right, thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Devoti, Vice Chair Devoti.
Alderman Browning, thank you for the presentation and the information. It's much appreciated. My question is, you made reference to Kansas City, Missouri, that on the west side of the state, there is no filing fee requirement, but there is a signature, a petition requirement. Do you know off the top of your head what that requirement is? Is it comparable to what we have now in our system?
Yes, so it's 300 signatures for the wards, 500 at large. So depending on the turnout, it could be higher. Honestly, ours is dependent on how many people voted for mayor the last time around. So the more engaged electorate you have, the higher the signature requirement would be. But yeah, Kansas City, if you're just going by last election numbers in St. Louis, Kansas City has a slightly higher signature requirement. And I would welcome discussion around the signature requirement, but that's just not what this bill is doing today. It's more about the financial requirements, and we have plenty of time for the next election if someone would like to take a crack at that.
I understand that, and I am generally supportive of your mission here in the attempt of this particular board bill. I'm just wondering if it would I guess maybe calm some of the things that I've heard so far, if we raise, or if the legislation would raise that requirement, so that we do know that we're having there would be less doubt about the seriousness of the candidate. That's my only inquiry.
Yeah, and I absolutely hear that. I understand the concern about seriousness, and I would just say that look at this last election. I don't think that the money barrier stopped people from filing that weren't serious. It was more that it just limits people from low income backgrounds. So any suggestion that, and I don't think you're suggesting this, but any suggestion that seriousness is tied to income, I think would be offensive. And so I hear that we're able to pay it from our filing fee or from our committees, but honestly, how many of us had robust donor networks when we first ran for office? With current filing fees of more than $700, people on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum will find it difficult to run. These people are more likely to be Black and brown, more likely to come from non-traditional family structures, more likely to work from more than one job. I don't know why we would want to keep it more expensive to file for Alder than for U.S. Senator. The races these days cost between $60,000 and $80,000, so making them pay a $700 plus fine even from their committee just because seems to just be punitive rather than doing anything for the city.
Well, and again, I'm generally supportive of the bill, and I was not trying to suggest that somehow indicating a certain amount of money suggested seriousness. So I hope that didn't come across in my questioning. Can you give us, I know you've done quite a bit of research on it, the percentage tied to salary seems like a fairly arbitrary way to set the limit. Are you aware of any history? How did that come about?
You know, I'm not sure why it was set that way in the first place. I know it's certainly unique when it comes to surrounding municipalities and how they do it, as well as the rest of the state. The flat fee seems to be the most common model we see.
Well, I appreciate your comments and the discussion, and I do support the bill.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vice Chair Devotee. I'm going to go to President Green, who's joined us today.
Thank you, Chairwoman Velasquez and members of the committee. No questions, just also a comment. I also am in support of this bill and want to thank Alderman Browning for working on this. I think it's a pretty, common sense kind of cleanup bill. I do know that a lot of folks, especially first-time candidates, pay for their filing fees out of their own pocket. Because a lot of times you are filing for office, creating your campaign committee at the exact same time. You are maybe just starting to lean on family and friends to, give some donations and things like that. And I don't like the idea of having money being a barrier to ballot access. The other thing I do want to make note of is that I think that this, this getting us to a point where we're paying pretty, hefty ballot, filing fees is more of a product of the salary increases that happened when the board went from part-time to full-time than, anything to go with Prop D. The change with Prop D was instead of the money going to the political party, it went to the city, which is what has always happened if there were independent candidates on the ballot. As many of you know, my very first election, I ran as an independent. And so my filing fee was paid to the city treasury rather than to the Democratic Party for that reason. I would be in support if, we wanted to do follow-up legislation that said, if folks wanted to be able to, give their filing fee to a certain political party or whatever, I think that's something to look at, because that seems to be the consternation more than anything is about who's, I think, getting the funds. But in my mind, this is very, common sense and is a good first step in, quite frankly, a lot of election updates that we need. When you go through our city code and our city charter, there are quite a few things that are not clear and contradictory, and I'm looking forward to having one of the things we do in the future through the Legislation and Rules Committee is look at more of those election laws that we have on the books, and how do we make sure that we have something that is very streamlined and clear and aligned with the charter. And if we need to take charter changes to the ballot, we do that as well. So I think it's a good first step and some necessary cleanup work, and want to ask that I be added as a co-sponsor to the bill.
Noted.
Thank you, President Green. Before I hand it back to our Mr. Borgmeyer, I also want to say, President Green, I think you took most of the words I was going to say, most of what I was thinking. I do support this. I'm pretty sure I paid my campaign filing fee out of my own pocket. I have to go back and check my banking records, but I am almost certain, because they did require checks. I wouldn't have had campaign checks at that time for all the reasons that President Green said, is when you're a first-time candidate, all these things are kind of happening all at once. And why you can pay it out of a campaign committee, just going to say for the record, I think for most first-time candidates, even somebody like me who I thought I had everything in place, I still paid for it out of my own pocket. I don't think it's unreasonable for us to assume that other first-time candidates won't have the same experience. So I do think, with that in mind, and similar to what President Green said, I know that we shifted to a nonpartisan election, and then all these monies have been going to general revenue. And I too would be in support of a different legislation that would, there'd be an option for people to send their filing fees to a certain party. But as you pointed out, Alderman Browning, that is not the purpose of today's bill. It's to change the filing fees, and I think as everybody on this committee has said at one point or another, you know, governing is imperfect, and we always have to do things to kind of fix things that we didn't, you know, that didn't get done right or done a certain way the first time around. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to you, Alderman Browning. I see that we've got Mr. Borgmeyer here, so if you would like him to testify, obviously, he's here and available and can do that.
Yeah, if Mr. Borgmeyer has any comments, he's happy to let him express those at this time. He is the foremost expert we have in the Board of Election Commissioners. Mr. Borgmeyer, if you have anything, you can certainly step in now.
I mean, everyone's kind of said, as far as what, for the record, this is Ben Borgmeyer, Democratic Director at the Board of Elections. You know, as far as just factually, I think, you know, the fee for the run for office in the city is out of whack with other state offices, period. So I think this bill kind of puts it more in line. And then as far as where the money goes, initially when this bill was filed, there was a note that said fiscal impact on the election board as far as, you know, we don't collect those fees. Those fees go to general revenue already. So I think this bill kind of clarifies that. You know, although I've not heard anecdotally from any candidates of this being a bar as far as like what the fee is. I mean,
My
maybe,
apologies. I'm sorry, Mr. Borgmeyer, but Alderwoman Velazquez, Mr. Borgmeyer has to be sworn in.
I apologize, Ben, if you could, or Mr. Borgmeyer, if you could please raise your right hand or whatever hand, and do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
of course.
Thank you.
So I guess everything I previously said was true, so I can, you know, veer to that. So then just to say that I think this bill does put the filing fee in line with other offices, and simply, you know, that's all I can say from my end. If anyone's got any questions, I can answer as well.
Thank you, Mr. Borgmeyer. I'll just go through in order of seniority. Alderman Cohn, do you have any questions?
No.
Alderman Ryan?
No questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Keys?
No questions, thank you.
Alderwoman Sonier?
No questions.
Vice Chair Devotee?
No questions.
President Green, questions?
No questions.
I have no questions for you either. So with that, Madam Clerk, do we have any
There's
folks
one
who are
person, but
for
they're not
public
raising their
comment?
hand. There's one person on the attendee side, but they're not asking to speak. So I'm not showing anyone.
All right, well, with that, Alderman Browning, I will hand it back over to you.
Thank you. So again, this is about democracy. It's about equal access to the ballot. We need to ensure that voters have choices about who represents them, not just those who can afford to. I know I'm asking you all to do something that seems like it might not be in your best interests, but we aren't here to act in our own personal interests. We're here to work for the people, and none of us are going to be here forever. So I think we need to think about the years ahead. We should be adhering to the principles of democracy, and that includes lowering barriers to entry. So let's fix our mistake. Let's lower these filing fees and ensure that access to the ballot isn't restricted to income, but on your willingness to serve the people. And with that, I ask for the committee for a do pass recommendation. And thank you again for your time today.
Thank you, Alderman Browning. It looks like we might have one some public testimony before we do anything further. Madam Clerk, is that?
Yes, he raised his hand. Mr. Sean Foss, I believe is pronounced.
Yes. So Mr. Faust, if you could pop on camera so we could see you, you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, great. And then Madam Clerk, can you please give Mr. Faust 3 minutes?
Yes.
And we'll need you on camera if that's possible when you testify, when you start speaking.
Is it working there?
It went, it was, then it wasn't, now we have you. Yes. So,
Thank you very much. I'd like to say, address a couple concerns. I realize the intent of this bill is to make sure that accessibility is not limited to income. That said, this is not a $720 fee that has to be paid for by the candidate themselves. Any candidate, as confessed by Alderman Browning, will be needing to raise between 60 and 80 by his calculation for a aldermanic race. I think you could probably get by with lower, but that'd be a great war chest to have. So you're gonna face obstacles either way when it comes, as you guys call obstacles, barrier, hurdle. I consider this to have investment or skin in the game. The logic also for the signatures, you had mentioned that the signatures would be an alternative to make sure that the candidates filing for office, maybe serious candidates, as we've been using the word, but that also takes a great deal of time, and time is money. The two are almost like electricity and magnetism. It's electromagnetism. You can't have one without the other. So to call this filing fee a barrier, you'd have to call the signatures a barrier as well. So this is just having a certain amount of skin in the game. As the comparative analysis was given to other offices, I believe other offices should be higher in their filing fees, because what we have right now, it's not about limiting access of candidates to the ballot, but we have a situation where we're going to have frivolous candidates filing for office, especially an office that carries a salary of $72,000, and that's just going to cause more money to be spent on and in politics. The ones who benefit from this most are the consultants who make money off campaigns, also union printers, so that's a good thing. But a lot of that money comes from union members' pockets. I'm not speaking today as a AFL in any kind of capacity with that, but I do want that to be noted that this is not the $720 fee. It's not a burden, barrier, obstacle as much as it's an investment to having skin in the game. And any candidate from a lower income background, as we've talked about with the signatures or with the $720 fee, they're always going to have an inherent disadvantage. It's always going to be easier for someone from money, just like we see the self-financing billionaires, to run for office than it would be a normal working class person. So this $720 fee, I would like to see remain, because this will make it where we have serious candidates filing for office, not perennial candidates, not candidates that don't actually want to do the job, that aren't competent to the job, and that aren't actually going to run in a contested election. That's all I really have to say. I don't see changing this as beneficial to the city or increasing our democratic participation, small d.
thank you, Mr. Faust. Madam Clerk, do we have any other folks who want to testify?
No, we haven't.
And is there any written testimony in regard to Board Bill 5?
No, not at this time.
All right, well, with that, I know Alderman Browning, you asked for the committee to consider due pass recommendation, and with that, I will be willing to entertain a motion for a due pass recommendation for Board Bill 5.
So moved.
Second. All right, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan.
No.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, was that Cone? Alderman Cone, you said no?
Correct.
Alderman Narayan.
No.
Alderwoman Keys.
Present.
Alderwoman Sanye.
Present.
Vice Chair DeVoti.
Yes.
Chair Velasquez.
Yes, or aye.
We have two present, two ayes.
You have President Green here.
I'm sorry, President Green.
Aye.
We have 2 present, 3 ayes, 2 noes.
With that, this bill passes. No, it does not
No, it does not.
pass.
No, does not.
So. All right, well, thank you, Alderman Browning, for bringing Board Bill 5 to the committee. With that, we had no written testimony. We have no resolutions for review. Is that correct?
Correct.
Are there any announcements? And if my committee math was right, all members were present. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
So no need to ask for anything else. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you.
Meeting
We need a
adjourned.
vote.
We have to adjourn.
You need a vote,
Can we please take roll?
or you can do
No,
I,
we
nay,
don't.
or nay. All those in favor signify.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Hi.
All right, now we can leave.